Welcome to the Compact Murder Podcast from compactmurder.com, the show where we explore murders, murderers, serial killers, and assassinations. This is episode 46, The Murder of Catherine Eddowes. In the early hours of the 30th of September 1888, the gaslit streets of London's East End became the scene of one of the most infamous double murders in history. Among the thousands living in the crowded and desperate neighbourhoods of Whitechapel was Catherine Eddowes, a 46-year-old woman whose life had been shaped by hardship, poverty, and survival. She would become the fourth confirmed victim of the killer who would be known forever as Jack the Ripper, and her death would plunge the East End into deeper fear than ever before. Catherine Eddowes was born on the 14th of April 1842 in Wolverhampton. She was the sixth of 12 children in a working-class family. Her parents moved the family to London when she was still a child, but they later returned to Wolverhampton. Orphaned as a teenager, Catherine's early life was unstable. Without the security of her parents, she drifted through a series of jobs, including work in factories and as a tin plate stamper. By her early 20s, she had returned to London, where she met a man named Thomas Conway. They lived together for more than a decade, had 3 children, but never married. Eventually, the relationship broke down, and Catherine began a new partnership with John Kelly, a labourer who shared her unsettled lifestyle. Life for Catherine and John was precarious. Seasonal work in the hop fields brought in money during the late summer, but in the winter they were often penniless, moving between cheap lodging houses. Alcohol was a common escape from the grind of poverty, and it played a role in many of Catherine's later troubles. Whitechapel in 1888 was a hard place to survive. Overcrowded lodging houses, narrow alleys and unlit courtyards created an environment where disease and crime thrived. By September, the district was gripped by terror. 3 women, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman and Elizabeth Stride, had been murdered in shocking fashion, their throats cut, and in 2 of those cases, their bodies mutilated. The press had given the unknown killer a name that was already infamous, Jack the Ripper. On the evening of the 29th of September, Catherine and John returned to London from Kent, where they had been hop-picking. They were broke. Catherine pawned some of John's clothes and later told him she would go to Bermondsey to borrow money from her daughter. They parted ways that night. Some time later, Catherine was found drunk in Aldgate. A crowd had gathered to watch her shouting and singing in the street. The police arrested her for being drunk and disorderly and took her to Bishopsgate police station. She was placed in a cell to sober up. By around 1 o'clock in the morning, she was judged fit to leave and was released. Instead of going to her daughter's home or returning to John Kelly, Catherine walked into the dark, empty streets. Her route took her toward Mitre Square, a small, cobbled area within the City of London. At around 1:35 a.m., a man named Joseph Lawender saw a woman he believed to be Catherine standing with a man at the entrance to Church Passage, which led to the square. The man was described as having a medium build, a fair complexion, a moustache, and wearing a peaked cap. At 1:44 a.m., Police Constable Edward Watkins entered Mitre Square on his patrol. Only minutes before, the square had been empty. Now, in the southwest corner, Watkins found the body of Catherine Eddowes. Her throat had been cut, her face slashed with multiple knife wounds, her nose partly cut away. There were deep cuts to her eyelids. Her abdomen had been opened, and several internal organs removed, including part of a kidney. The killer had acted with speed and precision, completing his work in under 15 minutes, before disappearing into the night. Watkins blew his whistle for help. Constable James Harvey, who had passed the Church Passage entrance moments earlier, had seen nothing suspicious. The narrow time frame within which the murder took place suggested that the killer was not only ruthless but confident and familiar with the area. Catherine's killing was the second murder that night. Less than an hour earlier, Elizabeth Stride had been found dead in Berners Street, her throat cut but with no mutilations. Investigators speculated that the killer had been interrupted during the attack on Stride and had gone in search of another victim to satisfy his urge. The night became known as the double event. As police fanned out through the surrounding streets, a piece of Catherine's blood-stained apron was found in the doorway of a building in Goulston Street. Above it, written in chalk, was a message: "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." The City Police wanted to photograph it, but the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Charles Warren, ordered it erased immediately, fearing that it would provoke anti-Jewish riots in an already tense district. Dr. Frederick Gordon Brown carried out the post-mortem examination. He reported that the kidney and part of the uterus had been removed with what seemed like anatomical knowledge. This fed the theory that Jack the Ripper might have been a doctor or butcher, although that idea remains debated. The witness statements offered little that could lead to an arrest. Lowende's sighting near Church Passage was the closest anyone came to seeing Catherine with her killer, but the description was too general to be of much use. Other leads dried up quickly. The discovery of Catherine's mutilated body and the link to the earlier killing of Elizabeth Stride created shockwaves through London. Newspapers carried vivid descriptions of the crime scenes, often sensationalised to sell more copies. Public outrage was intense. People demanded better street lighting, more police on the beat, and swift justice. The inability to catch the killer caused deep frustration and fueled conspiracy theories that ranged from police incompetence to claims that influential figures were shielding the murderer. Catherine was buried on the 8th of October 1888 at the City of London Cemetery in Manor Park. Her grave was unmarked, as was the custom for paupers' burials, but in later years a memorial plaque was placed at the site. John Kelly, her partner, attended the funeral, along with a small group of friends and family. Her murder remains one of the defining events in the Jack the Ripper case. The double event gave investigators a rare insight into the killer's behaviour. His willingness to kill twice in one night, the escalation in the mutilations, and the boldness of attacking in an area patrolled by the City of London police. The mystery of the Goulston Street graffito has never been solved, leaving open the question of whether it was connected to the crime or simply a coincidence. For the people of Whitechapel, the murder of Catherine Eddowes was another reminder of how dangerous the streets had become. It reinforced the idea that the killer could strike anywhere, at any time, and vanish without a trace. More than a century later, her story remains a stark illustration of life and death in Victorian London's East End. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Compact Murder Podcast from compacthistories.com. If you did, why not leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts? And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you would like to support us more directly, please consider buying us a coffee. Head on over to compacthistories.com/murdercoffee to see how. Also, please check out our other Compact podcasts. You will find them all at compacthistories.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.